Hello, and welcome to Read the World. My name is Derek Main, and I review translated literature. And we're back to, as you can see, in kind of a weird space, and that's because we live in a very weird world right now, and I'm kind of doing my videos wherever I can. Today is going to be our book review, but tomorrow, actually, the 2020 long list for the Best Translated Book Awards comes out, and I hope to do a reaction video. Unfortunately, I'm not a poetry expert by any means, so I will only be doing a reaction, assuming I can get to it, to the fiction piece, to the prose. So today, I think I probably told you guys that, like a lot of you, I've had some trouble reading. So the thing that is pulling me out of this has been linear, logical plotting and mayhem. So in particular, the gritty noirs. And as I said in the last one I did, The Thief, Tom Roberts from Riff Raff was kind enough to send me some. I'd encourage you to do the same, but I just basically sent some money and said, please send me books, I need supplies, and these are great recommendations. So today is The Mad and the Bad by Jean-Patrick Manchette, translated from the French by Donald Nicholson-Smith, and this is a New York nyrb Classics. So, I obviously not too long ago read and reviewed my first Manchette, which was 3 to Kill. So pretty cool to follow it up with this one. This is a great book that if you're a fan of Manchette, if you're a fan of noir, I absolutely have to recommend. But it'll be interesting to talk a little bit about the differences between and similarities between The Mad and the Bad and 3 to Kill, as well as just kind of my general impressions of not his politics, but how his politics expresses itself in what are really pretty conventional noirs. I mean, they're really good noirs, don't get me wrong. I mean, but they are, like I was looking for, sort of that linear, logical plotting, So this summary real quick is we've got a character, Julie, who is just getting out of an insane asylum, and she's hired by a very wealthy architect, Michael Hartog, powerful businessman. She's hired to kind of watch over his nephew, Peter, who is just a troublesome little boy. And very quickly an incident happens that sets everything else in motion. And so that was very similar to 3 to Kill. If you recall, in 3 to Kill, our main character is driving one night and sees a accident, and by taking that victim of the accident to the hospital, he opens up the can of worms because of who that victim is, and that sets everything in motion. Well, in here, it's a kidnapping that sets everything in motion of Julie and the boy that she's supposed to be watching, Peter. And that is essentially plot-wise as far as we can go with noirs. And that's because I don't like to spoil books, and when you're dealing with reviewing these linear, like I said, logical plots, there's only up to a point that you can really go, because everything else after is full of the fun twists and turns that frankly make this stuff worth reading. So The Mad and the Bad. I mean, the bad is a particular character and group of characters, and that's sort of like the evil. And the mad is, of course, Julie, who has just left the insane asylum, and that's mad in terms of maybe crazy, and that's the Mad and the Bad are going to fight over a resource, perhaps, or a person, or a thing, and those are going to be the forces that are pulling against each other and that are in a physical duel. And so that in of itself is very interesting, but I want to talk briefly about the politics, because the thing about Jean-Patrick Manchette that is very notable, and kind of the first thing a lot of people know is that he is a radical leftist. And I share many of his politics. I obviously don't know what they all were, but everything that I have ever seen lines up with my political beliefs. So I always get really interested in checking out how it expresses itself. I talked about in 3 to Kill how I thought it expressed itself in terms of a very average sort of upper middle class person having their entire world shattered and sort of upended, and then what would then come from that? What is their base? Like, who are they really when it's down simply to survival? And that I thought there were elements of eventually needing to ask the bourgeoisie to come to terms with what that might be like in terms of an economic, social, or political revolution. Although that could be stretching. The Mad and the Bad, however, a lot more clear. I mean, Michael Hartog is very wealthy. Let's check this. Right here, you're going to see on page 32. This gives you a great example, this little back and forth. All you poor people are just too stupid. You go about things in the dumbest way. Everyone can't inherit money. Hartog shrugged. For my part, I'd do something with my inheritance. You people wouldn't know what to do with one. You, Fuentes and company, people like you, what I do is create a work. And there you go. I mean, that's just the richest sort of dismissal of the poor, and this idea that's, of course, very popular and has been forever, that they're the ones who know what to do with their money, and they create work, they create jobs, and aren't they so magnanimous? Whereas poor people are so dumb they would waste it all anyway. Meanwhile, like, he hasn't earned this. I mean, it's an inheritance, as she brings up. It's luck of birth, as it is for basically all of us at this point in capitalism, with extreme few exceptions. But anyway, that gives you kind of a sense there of where the economic politics are, because there's a lot of that, like, with Hartog being so wealthy and powerful, but it not being anything that he's earned or whatever. Another way in which I think this kind of touches a little bit on, like, commerce of art. And I say that because he is an architect, and he has an ex-partner who's very important to the story, who's also an architect. And the dichotomy, I guess, between using that technical skill to make as much money as possible versus honing that artistic skill to make something beautiful is definitely an element that is kind of, within these pages. And it's something I think about a lot as well. I mean, just this week, actually, interestingly, there was a little kerfluffle on writer and book Twitter because basically a group provided a lot of free ebooks, and NPR touted the story about this national emergency library. While we're all staying at home and quarantined, here's a group providing access to free ebooks. Some really famous authors, I mean, I'm not going to name and whatever, shame, but some really famous authors, got upset and said this is stealing, this is piracy. And, I'm whatever, right? You know what I mean? Like, they were the level of authors where they're not going hungry, they're doing very well. And during this time, like, if you and your family are well and you're fed, and on that same day someone is also discovering your work, things are pretty good. Like, maybe now is not the time to, like, yeah. So, I've been thinking a lot about art and commerce and how they interact, because in many ways capitalism is not a very good match, right, for the arts. So anyway, and there's elements of that in here. Moving on from the political. So I just want to give you this sentence on page 45. She was breathing through her mouth. She was calm for now. She could not quite believe the evidence of her senses. You see why I love reading him? I mean, forget a minute. You don't have to be a leftist firebrander. I mean, she could not quite believe the evidence of her senses. It's just an awesome sentence. And that's the kind of stuff in a fast-paced story that just like really stops you for a second and is really cool to read. And the last thing I'm going to look at, kind of review, is a comparison again to 3 to Kill. I'd like to explore further as I move into his work more. This is page 67, just to give you a sense of why I'm going here. Julie was far away. She was out of breath. She was not running now, save over brief stretches of open terrain. Soon she found herself in completely wild country. The woods thinned out and gave way to rolling, sandy ground, interrupted here and there by jumbled rocks surmounted by pines. There were hollows with great masses of bracken. There was no trace of human settlement. Why am I bringing that up? Because same thing happens in 3 to Kill. I noticed a very interesting and I think clear connection. While each of the characters in 3 to Kill and then the Mad and Bad are on the run from forces of violence, forces of evil, they find themselves in these natural habitats around no human settlement where, again, they're kind of back to their base survivalist instincts. And in both cases, there will be a human being or human beings there to nurture them. And those people are already very familiar with the land and the geography and the pace of the place that is so different from the urban sprawl that they come from in Paris, essentially. I find that really interesting. I don't know quite what it's saying about where to go after capitalism or what refuge there might be even within the confines of capitalism. I'm not sure, but I do find it interesting that as both books, as the characters are on the run, we have this natural, you know, sort of like return to earth thing, and then amidst that there's kind of a caretaker figure that is going to nurse people back to health and is going to show them the way of the land. I don't know what to make of it. If you do, or if you have an idea, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear, but it's too on the nose, both things happening. They happen in the same parts of the story. They serve the same functions. It's just so similar that there's something there, even if, as you can tell, I haven't quite figured it out. So that is The Mad, the Bad. Highly recommend if you like Manchette. And again, it is translated from the French by Donald Nicholson-Smith, and this is an NYRB classic. I wanted to show you, I think I showed you C'est la Vie last time, which is what I'll be working on now, really short, by Pascal Garner. And this is a, let's see, it is translated by Jane Aitken from the French, and it's a Gallic book. The other one is Vengeance is Mine, All Others Pay Cash. What a great title, by Ika Cornawan. And this is translated from the Indonesian by Annie Tucker. This is a New Directions. But I want to show a couple other just books that I've got hanging around because I don't know right this second, like, what's the next thing I'm going to read? Well, you know I love Die My Love, so I've got Feeble Minded here by Ariana Harwitz, the same author of Die My Love, from Charco Press. This is translated by Annie McDermott and Carolina Orloff. Excited about that. You know I got my Lispector on. Clarice Lispector, The Chandelier. This is translated by Benjamin Moser and Magdalena Edwards. And this is a New Direction. Very excited to follow up my reading of Hour of the Star with this. Then I have 3 really exciting cool books from Open Letter. So what happened is Open Letter didn't make it to AWP. Isn't it crazy that AWP like went on and happened? Anyway, crazy. But they didn't make it to AWP, but they did this virtual sale that was like crazy good. I forget that. It might have been like 3 books for, I don't know, $20. It was just like awesome. So I knew I wanted to get Merce Rodero's oh God, I probably killed that name, and she's like an extremely famous author. Rotoreda, Death in Spring, translated from the Catalan by Martha Tennant, and all these are open letters, so no need to say more. But I knew I wanted to get this, and right when all this craziness started, I started Garden by the Sea, and I loved the setup, I loved the writing, I loved it all the way through about 3/4, and then either it was me or the book just lost steam. And I honestly, I know it's like cop-out to blame the book, but there were aspects I think that just didn't quite crush it. So I really want to read this, which is like supposed to be your masterpiece, right? And then Knowledge Loss, who's one of my favorite readers, favorite content creators, booktubers, all that stuff. This is one of his favorites, so you know I had to do it. I think he described it as Midsommar-like, and I loved that movie. So then I just asked folks, hey, what would you recommend? This, I think Joshua Roth, so I just read one of his, he has a beautiful short text, The Art of the Great Dictators, that I just read. He's really great writer in the Pacific Northwest. But I think this is the one he recommended, Can Vertical Stories, translated, Motion Hue. Can Hue. I'm in trouble today, right? It's because of this awesome design makes it like I need to focus on the red and the white. Can Hue's Vertical Motion. Okay, there we go. Translated from the Chinese by Karen Gernot and Chen Zepping. And these are stories. I think you'll notice that I don't do a lot of short story collections. And it's because I'm one of those weirdos who's like enamored with the novel and the idea of the novel. I still am. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. Like that's what I'm drawn to. I like those novel and novella length works. But anyway, these were that was recommended, I think, by Joshua Rose. And then Giselle Dome, I believe, might have been Anthony at Open Letter that recommended it, knowing my reading style. And the thing is, this one's a huge one. So right now, I do not think I've got the thing for it, but this is Guillermo Sacamano, translated from the Spanish by Andrea Labinger. And I mean, listen, it's on the front, winner of the Dashiell Hammett Award 2013. So I mean, it's right in the mode of the stuff I'm reading right now. It's just big, and my concentration, probably like yours, is small. All right, that's what I got today. I'm hoping to be able to get up on the mic in the ones and twos tomorrow to do my reaction to the prose fiction section of the Best Translated Book Award Long List 2020. If my work would stop trying to zoom and all that other stuff, then that'll be no problem. Thanks again for watching, and be good to folks.